Good morning. My name is Zhou Chen. I work in the Department of Market Perspectives and Innovation in the Sen and Senelec Management Center. And here with me today is Eric, my colleague in international cooperation as well. Eric.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. My name is Eric Marchand and I've been working in the International Cooperation unit, which is now called Market Perspectives and Innovation Department since probably 24 years, mainly in on international topics, and I'm very happy to share our activities with you today, together with Joha.
Indeed, in today's session, Eric and I are going to give you an introduction about Senelec's international cooperation activities, specifically adoption of standards by third countries, and give you an overview of the different modes of partnership that we have with countries outside Sen and Senelec membership. Our introduction will cover mainly 4 aspects of our work: the why, the what, the how and who, and how much or how many. I would look after the first 2 questions and Eric the last 2. I will start with the why. So we have Vienna and Frankfurt agreements with ISIL and IEC, and our national members have their own cooperation with third countries. So why do Senelec need to cooperate with countries outside of Senelec membership? Isn't this a duplication of efforts? Here are some reasons. First and foremost, because standards facilitate trade. Whenever possible, our cooperation and coordination with countries outside Senelec membership always happen at international level in the ISO and IEC, because it is the most cost-effective way to use resources for the widest market outreach. However, there are exceptional cases when complementary bilateral technical cooperation is needed to pave the way for international work. For example, when China wanted to adopt European lift standards for its new lift safety regulation, but couldn't sign an adoption agreement with Sen due to political reasons, the technical committees from both sides decided to establish a joint working mechanism to bring European standards to international level, integrating Chinese comments so that these standards can be used in China. And second and third, political and regulatory relevance. Sen and Senelec are 2 of the 3 European standards organizations recognized by European legislation. Partners come to us because we represent the collective European voice on standardization, and also thanks to the role that standards play in supporting European legislation. And fourth, we are the copyright holders of pure European standards. Interested partners approach us if they wish to adopt European standards as their national or regional standards. And we have to bear in mind, as Senelec, we do not sell standards. It is our national members who are responsible for selling European standards. And last but not least, Sen and Senelec are forums where members come together to share experiences and coordinate common messages or positions towards external partners, sometimes with participation from ETSI, for example. All our international cooperation activities, in fact, support the goal 5, the 5th goal of our Senelec Strategy 2030. And the goal is to strengthen our leadership and ambition at the international level. Now, next, let's come to what. So what do we do with, foreign partners? On this slide, we have provided a non-exhaustive list of elements that we consider what to do with our foreign partners. And each partner country has its own specificities. So what we do with them vary from partner to partner, depending on what is feasible as well as mutual interests. First, we strengthen ISO and IEC. As we have highlighted, well, we never can highlight enough that our relationship with ISO IEC through the Vienna and Frankfurt Agreement is always the priority. We discuss with our partners if we could have common input on strategies and coordinate on technical work. We propose mechanisms for complementary bilateral technical coordination to pave way for international work. If such kind of coordination cannot be done directly at the international level. And second category of activities we do is to promote the European standardization system through explaining the role of standardization in the European single market, the withdrawal of conflicting national standards. Can this be an interesting experience that can be adopted by other countries or regions to strengthen their own internal market? And then the public-private partnership of the European standardization model, how standards support European legislation through harmonized standards. And this is also considered one of the best regulatory practices that can be promoted all around the world. And the third category of activities that we do is to support policy dialogues and to keep strategic relationships alive. We support trade or investment agreements, negotiations or implementations. We participate in bilateral regulatory dialogues, bringing in standardization perspectives. And we also engage partners in dialogues with our priority partnership task forces and organize high-level bilateral meetings using opportunities such as ISO General Assembly and IEC General Meetings. And finally, we facilitate the adoption of European standards in other countries and regions through, for example, the signing of license agreements. So I've completed the why and the what. Next, I give the floor to Eric to explain to you the last two questions. Eric.
Thank you, Geoffroy. So Geoffroy explained what we do, and now I'm going to explain how we do it. So over the past years, decades even, we have developed different cooperation frameworks with regions or with countries of strategic focus for SEN and SENELEC. We have currently about 13 memoranda of understandings with regions, with regional organizations and standards, and we have currently 5 cooperation agreements with strategic countries over the world. We have Canada, China, Japan, South Korea, and so on. And we are in the process this week, during SEN and SENELEC General Assemblies, we are in the process of signing another cooperation agreement with BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards of India, and so we will have next week probably 6 of these cooperation agreements. So this is about the strategic outreach of SEN and SENELEC over the world, on top of our cooperation, strong cooperation with ISO and IEC. Next slide, please. As I said, we have 13 memoranda of understanding. We have 5 cooperation agreements, 6 next week, but we have limited resources. And so 3.5 years ago, SEN and SENELEC took the decision to better respond to evolving market and stakeholder needs. And we carried out an exercise to prioritize our partnerships. And we came up with a list of 5 regions or countries on which most efforts should be dedicated. The first one is Africa. As you may know, since 2 years, there is an African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was concluded with 36 or 37 countries in Africa. So we provide, in the context of this African single market, we provide European experience. not only with standardization, but also we join forces with other fields of quality infrastructure like European accreditation or Euromet, European Metrology Institute. With China, Geoffroy can tell much more in detail than me on the cooperation we have with China, but we have a cooperation agreement with SAC, the Standards Administration of China. We have also Task Force China, which is composed of our national members, but also representatives from industry, the European Commission, EFTA, and other partners. The new cooperation agreement with China is about to be concluded as well. We also have a standardization expert in China, Betty Chu, who actually helps the industry to better understand the standardization environment in China and to help industry to better market their products in this country. The Gulf region is also a priority partner, or GSO, the Gulf Standards Organization is a priority partner. This is a very technically based kind of cooperation, as you will see in the next slides. It's the Gulf standardization system is very close to the European standardization system. For example, the GSO members have the obligation to adopt all regional standards developed by GSO and withdraw any conflicting standards. And GSO actually has 80% of GSO's catalog of standards is based on ISO and IEC standards. And as you may know as well, the level of alignment between CEN and CENELEC and ISO and IEC is very high. So the level of alignment indirectly with the Gulf region is quite high as well. And the GSO adopted quite a lot of European homegrown standards as well. For India, we are in the process, as I said, to conclude a cooperation agreement or MOU with BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards. It's not under negotiation, it's signed, I would say. So we have in India, we also have a standardization expert, Dinesh Shancharma, who has the same role as Betty Chu in China. So they defend the interest of European standards organizations. And these projects are actually co-funded not only by CEN, CENELEC and ETSI, but also by the European Commission and EFTA. The last priority partner we have in CENELEC since 3.5 years is JISC, the National Japanese Standards Organization. It's also really based on technical cooperation, it is the case in the Gulf region. And we are we have annual meetings between JISC and CENELEC. We contribute to the regulatory dialogue between the EU and Japan as well in the working group on standardization and conformity assessment. And we bring the standardizers' point of view, I would say, in these political discussions or regulatory discussions. Next slide, please. In terms of technical cooperation, we have developed over the years some different tools which allow experts to get together, to discuss, to exchange on what they do. The first kind of technical cooperation is what we call technical committee observership. So we invite, the technical committee has the opportunity to invite observers from outside our membership to contribute to the work of the technical committee. This is the case of the affiliates of CEN and CENELEC, so those national standards bodies of countries which are in the EU accession process. We have 3 of them for the time being, but also this is the case for the companion standards bodies of CEN and CENELEC, which are not whose country is not in the EU accession process, but they are very much interested not only in adopting CEN and CENELEC standards, but also in learning about European standardization system. They are mainly from the neighborhood of the European Union, but we have also other companions from Australia, for example, or in Africa as well. So these observerships are embedded in these types of agreements, affiliates, companions, and also Japan. And so they are regulated by 2 guides, CEN/CENELEC guides, Guide 12 and Guide 13. And there's a lot of these observerships. They are almost 300 observerships in SEN technical committees, 41 in SENELEC technical committees, and also 5 in some joint SEN and SENELEC TCs. In cases where these technical observerships are not embedded in the agreements that we have with other countries, there is also another possibility for the technical committee of SEN and SENELEC to invite some observers into the meetings of the technical committees or the working groups. These are the rules are regulated in the detailed, I would say, in the SEN boss on one side and the SENELEC boss on the other side. There are also other types of technical cooperation tools. The first one is about joint working groups. This is the case for Japan and China, and these working groups aim at bringing experts together, but mostly at international level to coordinate positions. Then in the case of the Gulf region, we have also another technical cooperation tool, which we call technical cooperation agreement. This is a mix between observerships and joint working groups, I would say, because we bring experts together because there is an interest from both sides to discuss, to exchange, to better understand the standardization system. And so they work together, not only on a bilateral basis, but also at international level. We have concluded so far with GSO 5 technical cooperation agreements. You can see the names: so oil and gas, toy safety, pumps and air conditioning units, fire safety in buildings, plastics and rubber machines. And we are in the process also to discuss the conclusion of other technical cooperation agreements. And I can say that the feedback we receive from the SEN, it's only SEN in this case, of the SEN technical committees is actually very positive because they work together and they get achievements in their discussions. Next slide, please. So this slide is just about the main differences and the process between the affiliates and the companion standards bodies in SEN and SENELEC. So as I said, they are regulated by all the details you can find in the SEN SENELEC Guide 12 and 13. The process is that when we receive a request from a national standards body, an affiliate or a CSB, we address this request to the technical committee for a decision, at least in the case of the companions, because in the case of the affiliates, we prepare them to become one day a SEN and SENELEC member, and so there is no real decision to be made by the technical committee. For the companions, there is a decision to be made, and in principle, there is no restriction in terms of access, not only to the technical committee meetings and documents, but also at working group level, unless the technical committee expresses some restriction to that. And of course, we follow the advice of the technical committee. One big difference also between the affiliates and the companion is that the affiliates have the obligation to adopt the standards of the technical committees in which they send observers, at least the standards for which these observers had the opportunity to contribute and to comment. This is not the case for the companions. It's a bit more flexible, but we encourage them to do so, I would say. Another obligation that the observers have is to report every year, and in principle before the plenary meeting of the technical committee, to report on the current state of play in their sector, in their country, and the scope of activity of the concerned SEN technical body in which they send the observers. They also need to report about what the use they make of the standards that they have access to, the draft standards, for example, and also information on their activities for the next year. Next slide, please. This is a map about the dissemination of European deliverables outside Sen and Select membership. You can see that there's quite a lot of countries. And they, in fact, we make available the adopted standards by Sen and Select for review if they just want to have a look at the content of the standards before a decision is taken or not to adopt in their country. And also we provide them the standards for adoption in their country. There is also here an obligation from these national standards bodies to report on the adoptions when it's done, to notify the adoption of this European standard when it's done. Next slide, please. And in fact, the reporting on these adoptions is in fact in our database, and we can extract the figures by country, but also by sector, by technical committee, and so on. This is all, we can find it in the global outreach report, as we call it. There is a hyperlink that you can have a look at on our website. And so you can see that depending on the countries, they adopted lots of standards or less standards. Yeah, so this is a snapshot of the level of alignment that these countries have with Sen and Senelec. I will just take an example. You have the 3 affiliates in orange, but the country, the champion, I would say, in the adoptions of Sen and Senelec standards is ISM, the national standards body of Moldova. They adopted almost the whole catalog of standards of Sen and Senelec, and there is a specific reason why Moldova as an association agreement with the EU, and this association agreement stipulates that the national standards body of Moldova need to be prepared to become one day a Sen and Senelec member. And one of the criteria for a national standard body to become a Sen and Senelec member is that 80% of Sen and Senelec catalog at least need to be adopted identically in the country, and also withdrawal of conflicting standards. So this is one of the reasons why Moldova has adopted so many standards. I invite you to have a look at this global outreach report, and if you need in your technical committee some figures about the standards which have been adopted by these countries for the standards that you have developed in your technical committee, we will be happy to provide you with this information. Next slide, please. Geoffroy.
Yes, thanks, Eric. We are approaching the end of our presentation, and we would like to give you a summary of the key takeaway points. So the international cooperation activities of Sen and Senelec actually is a service provided to our members to advocate the primacy of ISO and IEC,
but also explain the benefits of the European standardization system, which is, as I said, unique in the world. And lots of countries are very much interested in getting information and exchange on how we work in Europe. So this is extremely important for some of them, at least, because they have a political or economic agreement, for example.
We provide a forum to share experiences and coordinate positions amongst our members.
And also when sometimes there is no international solution, and this is one of the reasons why these partners outside Sen and Senelec membership come to us to get complementary solutions and to facilitate the adoption of homegrown European standards based on their needs, and also to build up on technical cooperation and coordination mechanism.
And last but not least, we provide data and procedure support to members and technical bodies. And that brings us to the coordinates that you will see of Eric and myself. And if you have any questions on the international cooperation activities of Sen and Senelec, or about any specific country or region that we work with, you're most welcome to come to send an email to us, any of us.